In every city there's an old hotel. No one knows who built it, nor why it stayed open despite the few guests. In this particular hotel, there's a room that isn't mentioned in the guest booklet, but it's sometimes open to just one guest. Room 19. Our story tonight is about a journalist who thought he had come to write an investigation. So he writes a new chapter in a mystery that has remained unsolved for decades. Welcome to our world. Albert, a journalist in his early 30s, arrives at an old hotel in the city center. The sign is almost off, the reception empty except for a silent employee named Marie. Albert asks her, "I booked a room." She looks at him coldly and says, "Room 19 is waiting for you." Albert is surprised. "I didn't ask for a specific number." But she hands him the key without explaining. Albert takes his bag and goes to the room. The room is modest. A wooden bed, an old desk, a window overlooking the street. At night, Albert hears footsteps in the corridor, then a soft knock on the door. When he opens it, there's no one. But the furniture has changed. The chair is no longer next to the desk, but next to the bed. He writes a note in his notebook. The room is moving. In the morning, he meets Mason, the elderly bellboy. But he warns him, "Don't open the window." Albert laughs. "Why?" Mason whispers, "Whoever looks out of it will never return." Then he quickly walks away. Albert searches the city archives and discovers old articles about guests who disappeared from this hotel, the last of whom was a writer 10 years ago. They were all in the same room. The next night, Albert enters the room and finds it completely different. A new wall in place of the window and a huge mirror reflects the room, but without his image. He approaches. He hears his own voice from the mirror. "Go back. Before you're counted as one of them." He retreats, terrified. He writes, "A room is not a place. A room is an entity." He returns late and finds a man sitting on his bed wearing an old suit. The man smiles. "Finally, you've arrived. I was in your place before." Albert asks him, "How did you get in?" The man replies, "The room chooses, not us." Then he suddenly disappears, leaving behind the smell of old tobacco smoke. Days pass. Each day the room changes. Sometimes it's painted crimson. Once, it's filled with books on the floor. Once the bed turns into 2 beds, one of which is empty but bears the traces of a body. Albert doesn't sleep. His obsession grows. He reads the diaries of previous residents he found in a desk drawer. They all end with one sentence: "Room 19 is never empty." Albert's curiosity grows despite Mason's warning. He decides to open the window. When he opens it, he doesn't see the street, but a long corridor filled with illuminated doors. He hears whispers of his name. He quickly closes the window. He suddenly finds himself in another part of the room. He goes to Marie, the receptionist. He asks her angrily, "What's the story with this room?" She looks at him coldly. "If you don't write her story, you won't get out." Albert looks at her in astonishment and fear and asks, "Who came before me?" She replies, "Everyone before you wrote a part and disappeared. Now it's your turn to finish." He returns to the room, frantically writing in his notebook everything he saw. He hears voices in the corridor calling him, "Albert, Albert." He opens the door and finds dozens of pale faces like human shadows, all whispering, "Stay with us." He closes the door, terrified. The room suddenly transforms into a white space without walls. Mason appears, but with a different expression. He says, "This is the dividing line. If you go out, you'll write what you saw, and people will know. If you stay, you'll become part of the story." Albert chooses to go out. He finds himself on the street outside the hotel at dawn, clutching his notebook. When he opens it, he doesn't see his words. Instead, he sees strange sentences he didn't write, as if they were written by other hands, bearing the names of all the missing, including his own. It hasn't been erased. Is room 19 just a room in an old hotel? Or is it a door to another time, a place that devours those who write about it? Maybe it will remain closed for years, and maybe tonight it will open again. Tell me what you think. Now tell me, from which country did you watch the story? What time is it now? What is your favorite time to watch and share stories? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to follow the rest of the stories. And tell me if you have any interesting stories that you like.